My boyfriend deleted every photo of my late father from my phone, then told me I was emotionally taken up by another man. When I confronted him, he said, "I don't deserve to date someone who's still obsessed with a ghost." I just stared at him. That was 3 months ago. This morning, he wishes he could take it all back. I kissed my boyfriend for the first time when he was 7 and I was 8. Years of awkward hand-holding, homemade dates, and simmering tension later, we finally ended up together. He knew every detail about me and still loved me, which made me love him even more. There was only one red flag, his jealousy. But at first, it seemed normal. He'd just glare at any guy checking me out or clench his fists when someone catcalled me. Things started changing when I turned 21, the year my dad died. Initially, Trevor was my rock. He secretly learned to cook my dad's favorite dish from his go-to restaurant and covered my missed work hours so I wouldn't stress about money. But grief doesn't disappear. You just get stronger. And that strength takes time. That's why, on the 1-month anniversary of my dad's death, I found myself begging Trevor not to be mad at me for crying. From there, our relationship spiraled. Every time I mentioned my dad, Trevor would roll his eyes or ask why I was still talking about a man who wasn't him. Once, he came over while I was on my period and ignored me until I pretended to be fine. 2 hours after he left, I noticed every photo frame with my dad's picture had been turned face down. I knew what he was doing was wrong, but it was too painful to walk away. All my friends had given me space, which really meant they couldn't deal with me. And since my dad was the black sheep of the family, none of my relatives reached out. Without Trevor, I was completely alone. But of course, things got worse. Once, while I was sobbing uncontrollably, he grabbed my phone, saying he'd text my boss to call in sick for me. But 5 minutes later, he was still on my phone. When I looked over, I caught him deleting every photo of my dad from my camera roll and the deleted folder too. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him, shocked. "I don't deserve to date someone who's still emotionally hung up on another man," he said, completely serious. I thought he was joking, but then he stormed out, slamming the door. It took 2 hours of me apologizing to make it right. Around that time, I started feeling desperate. I needed to feel like my dad was still with me, so I took up motorbiking, something he used to love. I kept it a secret from Trevor. I told myself it was so I could surprise him, but deep down I knew he'd try to make me quit. But the guilt of keeping a secret got to me. So one day, I sent Trevor a selfie of me on the bike, grinning, and texted, hey, surprise. Your GF is cooler than you thought." Instead of hyping me up, or even just saying nice, he blew up. "So you're wearing tight gear and posing on a bike while in a relationship? That's disgusting," he texted. "I was just posing. I just wanted to surprise you," I responded. "Oh, so you're choosing a bike over my comfort now?" he fired back. I didn't reply. I was crying too hard to type. Half an hour later, there was a knock on my door. It was Trevor. He pulled me into a hug, the most affection he'd shown in weeks. "I'm sorry I haven't been there for you, baby. Let me make it up to you." It was everything I wanted to hear. We ended up having the most passionate night together. I fell asleep in his arms, feeling like everything would be okay. When I woke up, he was beside me, giving me a foot rub. He didn't even mention the motorbike. The next morning, I decided to ride my bike to college. Everything was fine until I hit a red light at the bottom of a hill. I squeezed the brakes, but nothing happened. My heart pounded as the bike kept moving. I swerved hard and managed to crash without major injury. At the hospital, they said I was lucky. I'd only sprained my wrist. But something felt off. Later, I took the bike to the mechanic. When I showed it to Pablo, his face turned pale. "I've been working here for 10 years. I'm sorry, Mama, but your brakes were cut." My mouth went dry. Suddenly, everything clicked. Trevor's change of heart, the apology, the foot rub. I immediately texted him, "Hey babe, just found out about the brakes. Thanks. You always know how to push me to move on. I love you." He replied, "Glad you finally came around." "Love you too." A smirk spread across my face. I had him exactly where I wanted. I waited until I got home to break down. I sat on the bathroom floor for hours, staring blankly at the wall. The guy I'd loved since childhood had just tried to unlive me. He actually cut my brakes. Who does that? I kept thinking about all those crime shows where they say most women are harmed by someone they know. Never thought I'd be one of those women. But after my pity party, I got up and made a plan. First, I needed more proof. I still had his text admitting to cutting the brakes, but I wanted something more. I remembered my dad's old GoPro in the closet. He used to mount it on his helmet when he went riding. I dug it out and made sure it still worked. The battery was low, but it had enough charge for what I needed. The next day, I invited Trevor over for dinner. I acted all lovey-dovey, pretending like I was totally fine with him trying to unalive me. He bought it. During dinner, I casually mentioned, I'm thinking of selling my bike. Really? That's great, babe. I think that's the right decision, he said, relief washing over his face. He even reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Yeah, I just need to fix it first. The mechanic said there might be some other issues besides the brakes, I said, watching his face carefully. His eye twitched, just for a second, but I caught it. What exactly did the mechanic say? He asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, just that the brake line was damaged. He's going to check everything else too, I said with a shrug. Trevor nodded and changed the subject. After dinner, he left early, claiming he had a morning class. I knew he was panicking. The next morning, I set up the GoPro in the living room, hidden behind a few books. Then I called Trevor, saying I was feeling really down about my dad. He arrived, annoyed but trying to hide it. What's going on? He asked, not even hugging me hello. I found some old videos of my dad on his bike. I thought maybe we could watch them together. It might help me process, I said, my voice soft and filled with vulnerability. Trevor's expression shifted, darkening. I thought we were past this, he muttered. You said you were selling the bike. I am, but I still miss my dad. Don't you understand? I asked, my voice breaking a little. Trevor snapped, your dad is gone, Melissa. He's been gone for months. When are you going to stop obsessing over him? I flinched, partly out of habit, but also because hearing him speak about my dad like that still hurt. Why does it bother you so much that I miss my father? I asked quietly. Because you're my girlfriend. Your loyalty should be to me, not some dead guy who can't even appreciate it. He shouted, his face inches from mine. His breath was hot against my skin, and I could see the vein throbbing in his forehead. I took a step back, genuinely scared now. Trevor, you're scaring me. Good. Maybe now you'll finally listen. I'm sick of competing with a ghost. He grabbed my arm so hard it left marks. His fingers dug into my skin, and I could already feel the bruises forming. You cut my brakes, I said, staring him down, my voice steady. You tried to kill me because I was riding a motorcycle like my dad used to. He released my arm like it had burned him. That's crazy. I have the text messages, Trevor. You admitted it, I said calmly. His face shifted, cycling through several emotions in just a few seconds. That's not what I meant. I was just glad you were finally moving on from the bike. You didn't cut my brakes? I asked, my voice calm. Of course not. What kind of person do you think I am? He said, looking offended. I walked over to my phone and pulled up our text exchange. Then what did you mean by this? I asked, showing him the screen. He read it, and his face went pale. That's not. You're twisting my words. Am I? I said. Pablo at the shop said, someone deliberately cut my brake line. The only person who knew about my bike and had access to it was you. That mechanic is lying. He probably did it himself to charge you more money. Trevor's voice rose to a pitch I hadn't heard before. I shook my head. I don't believe you. Fine, so what if I did? He screamed. You were being reckless. You could have died anyway. I was just trying to scare you into stopping. There it was. The confession. I felt sick. You could have killed me, I whispered. But I didn't. You're fine, just a sprained wrist, and now you're going to sell the bike, so it all worked out. He said, as if it were completely reasonable. I backed away from him, my heart racing. I think you should leave. Come on, don't be dramatic, he said, reaching for me. Get out. Now. Or I'm calling the police, I said, holding up my phone. His face changed, the mask slipping. You ungrateful little. After everything I've done for you. Fine. Have fun being alone, he spat, storming out and slamming the door so hard that a picture fell off the wall. It was a photo of my dad and me at my high school graduation. I waited until I heard his car drive away before collapsing onto the couch, shaking. I checked the GoPro footage. It had captured everything, his confession, the threats, him grabbing my arm. I had him. But what now? I wasn't sure if I had enough for the police. And even if I did I want to press charges against the guy I'd known my whole life? The thought made me feel sick. I decided to sleep on it. The next morning, I woke up to 37 texts from Trevor. They started with anger, then moved to apologies, then threats, then back to apologies. Classic Trevor. I ignored them all. Instead, I called my dad's best friend, Uncle Mike. He wasn't really my uncle, but he'd been around my whole life. I hadn't spoken to him since the funeral because it hurt too much, but I needed help. Melissa, is everything okay? He asked when he picked up. No, I said, and then I told him everything. Uncle Mike listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. I'm coming over, he finally said. Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to Trevor. I agreed and hung up. While waiting for Uncle Mike, I backed up the GoPro footage to my laptop and a USB drive. I wasn't taking any chances. I also took photos of the bruises on my arm where Trevor had grabbed me. They were already turning a nasty purple. Uncle Mike arrived about an hour later. He looked older than I remembered from the funeral. His beard had more gray in it, and the lines around his eyes were deeper. He gave me a long hug when I opened the door. Your dad would be so mad right now, he said, shaking his head. He never liked that kid. I know, I said quietly. I should have listened to him. Uncle Mike sat down at my kitchen table while I made coffee. So, what's your plan? He asked. I shrugged. I don't know. I have the video and the texts. I could go to the police, but... I trailed off. But what? He asked. But it's Trevor. We've known each other since we were kids. His mom still sends me birthday cards, I said, feeling stupid for even saying it. Uncle Mike gave me a look that reminded me so much of my dad it hurt. Melissa, he tried to kill you. I don't care if you've known him since birth. He's dangerous. Deep down, I knew he was right. But the thought of actually pressing charges made my stomach turn. Trevor had been my whole world for so long. How do you just throw that away? Let me think about it, I said. For now, I just want to make sure he stays away from me. Uncle Mike didn't look happy, but he nodded. Fair enough. But you're not staying here alone either. You come stay with me and Sharon, or I'm camping out on your couch. I smiled for what felt like the first time in days. I'll pack a bag. I ended up staying with Uncle Mike and his wife, Sharon, for a week. Their house was far from my apartment and far from Trevor's place. It felt good to be somewhere safe, somewhere Trevor couldn't find me. Sharon was amazing. She didn't ask too many questions. She just made sure I ate, slept, and took care of myself. She even helped me find a therapist who specialized in trauma and abusive relationships. My first appointment was 3 days after moving in with them. Dr. Patel was a small woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. What you're experiencing is very common, she said during our first session. Leaving an abusive relationship is one of the hardest things a person can do, especially with a long history. But I feel so stupid, I admitted. The signs were all there. My dad saw it. Why didn't I? Because abusers are very good at what they do, she said simply. They isolate you, make you dependent on them, and erode your self-confidence until you can't trust your own judgment anymore. That hit hard. Trevor had done exactly that. After my dad died, he'd become my whole support system. Of course, I couldn't imagine leaving him. He'd made sure I had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, Trevor kept blowing up my phone. I blocked his number, but he kept finding new ways to contact me, new phone numbers, email addresses, even a message on LinkedIn, which I didn't even know I had. I showed Uncle Mike some of the messages. I'm worried about you. Please just talk to me, one said. I know I messed up, but I love you. We can fix this, said another. If you don't respond, I'm going to call the police and report you missing, threatened a third. Uncle Mike's face got redder with each message. This kid needs to be stopped, he muttered. I nodded, finally accepting what I needed to do. I'm going to the police tomorrow. The next morning, Uncle Mike drove me to the police station. I brought my laptop with the GoPro footage, my phone with the text messages, and photos of the bruises on my arm. I was nervous as hell, but I knew it was the right thing to do. The officer who took my statement was named Officer Clark. She was in her 40s, with short blonde hair and a serious expression. She listened carefully as I told my story, taking notes and asking occasional questions. When I showed her the video, her expression darkened. This is a clear confession, she said. And the physical attack is on camera too. We have more than enough to apprehend him. I felt this strange mix of relief and anxiety. What happens now? I asked. We'll bring him in for questioning. Based on what you've shown me, we'll likely charge him with assault and attempted unaliving. You should also think about getting a restraining order, she explained. I nodded, feeling numb. Officer Clark must have noticed, because her face softened slightly. You're doing the right thing, she said. A lot of people in your situation never find the courage to come forward. Uncle Mike took me back to his house. I felt completely drained, like I had just run a marathon. Sharon made me some tea and a sandwich, but I barely had the energy to eat. All I could think about was Trevor being caught. What would he say? Would he deny everything? Would he hate me even more? A few hours later, I got my answer when Officer Clark called. We brought Trevor Johnson in for questioning, she said. Based on the evidence and his responses, we've charged him with assault and attempted unaliving. He's being held without bail. What did he say? I couldn't help but ask. There was a pause before she replied. He denied cutting your brake lines at first, but when confronted with the text messages, he changed his story. He claimed he only meant to scare you, not hurt you. But intent doesn't matter. What he did was still attempted unaliving. After hanging up, I sat on the guest bed at Uncle Mike's house and cried. Not for Trevor, but for myself, for all the years I'd spent loving someone who could do this to me, for ignoring my dad's warnings, for everything. The next few days passed in a blur. I gave more statements to the police, met with a prosecutor named Ms. Flores, who explained the charges against Trevor and what to expect moving forward. I got a temporary restraining order that would become permanent after a hearing. The evidence is strong, Ms. Flores assured me. The video confession alone is damning. Add in the text messages and the mechanic's statement about the brake lines being deliberately cut, and it's a solid case. I nodded, trying to take it all in. What kind of sentence would he get if convicted on all charges? He's looking at a minimum of 10 years, she said. Possibly more. 10 years. The thought made me dizzy. Trevor would be in his 30s when he got out. Our whole lives would have passed by. A week after Trevor's arrest, I decided it was time to go back to my apartment. Uncle Mike and Sharon had been amazing, but I couldn't hide forever. I needed to reclaim my life. Are you sure? Sharon asked, concern written all over her face. You know you can stay as long as you need. I'm sure, I said, hugging her. Trevor's in prison. The restraining order is in place. I need to start putting my life back together. Uncle Mike insisted on coming with me to check the apartment first. I was glad he did, because when we arrived, it was clear someone had been there. Nothing was stolen, but things were moved around. Pictures were turned face down. My clothes were strewn across the bedroom floor. Trevor couldn't have done this, I said, my heart racing. He's in prison. Uncle Mike frowned, looking around. It could be his friends or family. Do they have a key? I shook my head. No. Then I suddenly remembered that Trevor had made a copy of my key months ago. He could have given it to someone. We called the police, and Officer Clark came back with another officer. They took photos and dusted for fingerprints, but didn't seem optimistic about finding anything. Change your locks, Officer Clark advised before leaving, and consider getting a security system. I did both that same day. Uncle Mike knew a locksmith who came right away, and I ordered a simple security camera that connected to my phone. I wasn't taking any chances. That night, alone in my apartment for the first time in weeks, I jumped at every sound. The new locks and security camera helped, but I still felt exposed, vulnerable. I kept thinking about how someone, probably one of Trevor's friends, had been in my space, touching my things. I barely slept. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize, no voicemails. I blocked the number and got ready for class. I had missed enough school already. Campus felt different now. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see Trevor, even though I knew he was in prison. In my psychology class, I caught a guy staring at me. When our eyes met, he quickly looked away. Was he just a random guy, or one of Trevor's friends? I couldn't tell anymore. After class, I hurried to my car. As I approached, I noticed something under the windshield wiper, a piece of paper. My heart started pounding. As I got closer, it was a note, folded in half. With shaking hands, I opened it. I know what you did. Trevor didn't deserve this. Watch your back. I dropped the note like it had burned me, looking around wildly. I couldn't see anyone watching me. The parking lot was half full of students coming and going, none paying any attention to me. I took a photo of the note, then carefully picked it up using a tissue from my bag. I didn't know if the police could get fingerprints from it, but I wasn't going to risk smudging any evidence. Back in my car, doors locked, I called Officer Clark. She answered on the 3rd ring. Someone left a threatening note on my car, I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. I think someone's been calling me from different numbers. Where are you now? She asked, her voice immediately alert. In my car at the campus parking lot. Stay there. I'm sending a patrol car. 10 minutes later, a police car pulled up next to mine. 2 officers I hadn't met before took my statement and the note, which I put in a Ziploc bag from my lunch. We'll add this to the case file, one of them said. In the meantime, be extra vigilant. Travel with friends when possible. Keep your phone charged and ready to call 911. Great advice, except I didn't really have friends anymore. Most had drifted away during my relationship with Trevor, and the few who remained had disappeared when my dad died, and I became the sad girl. I called Uncle Mike again. I think Trevor's friends are harassing me, I told him. That's it, he said firmly. You're coming back to stay with us. Part of me wanted to argue, to insist I could handle this on my own, but the truth was, I was scared. Okay, I agreed. That afternoon, I packed another bag and headed back to Uncle Mike and Sharon's house. As I was leaving my apartment, I noticed a car parked across the street, a blue Honda. It looked like the one Trevor's best friend, Elliot, drove. When I stared at it, the car suddenly pulled away from the curb and drove off. At Uncle Mike's house, I told him about the car. "I'm pretty sure it was Elliot's," I said. "He and Trevor have been friends since middle school." Uncle Mike's face darkened. "I'm calling the police again. This is harassment." The police took another report, but said there wasn't much they could do without proof that Elliot was actually stalking me. "The car driving away isn't enough," Officer Clark explained when she called me back. "But we'll keep an eye out for it near your apartment." The next day, I got an email from Ms. Flores, the prosecutor. "Trevor's attorney has reached out about a possible plea deal," she wrote. "He would plead guilty to assault and reckless endangerment in exchange for dropping the attempted unaliving charge. This would mean a sentence of 3 to 5 years instead of 10. Please call me to discuss." I stared at the email for a long time. Part of me wanted Trevor to get the maximum sentence possible. He had tried to unalive me, he deserved to be in prison for a decade. But another part of me just wanted this to be over. A plea deal would mean no trial, no having to testify, no dragging this out for months or years. I called Ms. Flores, and we talked it through. "It's ultimately your decision," she said. "The evidence is strong enough that we could go to trial and likely win, but trials are unpredictable and they can be very hard on victims. What would you do?" I asked her. She paused. "I can't advise you either way, but I will say that 3 to 5 years is still a significant sentence, and with a guilty plea, there's no chance of him being found not guilty at trial." I thought about it overnight. In the morning, I called her back. "I'll agree to the plea deal," I said. "I just want this to be over." "I understand," she said. "I'll let his attorney know." The relief I felt after making that decision was enormous. No trial, no testifying, no having to face Trevor in court and relive everything. He would go to prison, and I could start to move on. Or so I thought. 2 days later, I was at Uncle Mike's house when my phone rang. It was Ms. Flores. "Trevor's rejected the plea deal," she said, without preamble. "He's decided to take his chances at trial." My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" His attorney didn't say. "But this means we're moving forward with all charges, including attempted unaliving. The trial date will be set at the next hearing." After hanging up, I sat on the guest bed, feeling numb. Why would Trevor reject the deal? It made no sense. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Was he just being stubborn, or did he have some plan I couldn't see? That night, I had a nightmare about Trevor. In the dream, he was standing over my bed, watching me sleep. When I woke up gasping for air, I could almost sense his presence in the room. It took several minutes before I could convince myself that I was alone and safe. The next morning, Sharon made pancakes for breakfast. She and Uncle Mike were doing their best to keep things normal, to give me a sense of safety. I appreciated it more than I could express. As we ate, Sharon said, "Maybe you should think about transferring to another school, a fresh start, somewhere Trevor and his friends can't find you." I had considered it too, but I couldn't bring myself to. "If I do that, he wins," I replied. "He's already taken so much from me. I can't let him take my education too." Sharon nodded, understanding. "I get it. Just know it's an option if things get worse." After breakfast, I checked my email and found a message from an unfamiliar address. The subject simply read, "Watch." A sense of dread washed over me as I opened it. Inside was a video attachment. Against my better judgment, I clicked it. The video showed me walking to class, getting into my car, and entering Uncle Mike's house. Someone had been following me, filming me for days. The last clip was from outside my apartment window, showing me changing clothes. My blood ran cold. Whoever did this had been standing right outside, watching me in my most private moments. The screen then displayed the words, "Drop the charges or everyone sees this." I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came back, Uncle Mike was standing beside my laptop, his face pale. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "Someone's been stalking me," I whispered. "They want me to drop the charges against Trevor." Uncle Mike immediately called the police. Officer Clark came herself this time, accompanied by a tech specialist who took my laptop to analyze the email and video. "This is serious," Officer Clark said. "Stalking, voyeurism, blackmail. We're going to find out who did this. It has to be one of Trevor's friends." I nodded. "Probably Elliot." Officer Clark agreed. "We'll bring him in for questioning. In the meantime, we need to move you somewhere safer. This address has been compromised." I looked at Uncle Mike and Sharon. "I'm so sorry. I've put you both in danger, too." Sharon hugged me tightly. "None of this is your fault," she said. The police arranged for me to stay at a hotel under a different name. Uncle Mike insisted on covering the cost despite my protests. Your dad would haunt me forever if anything happened to you, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. The hotel was nice enough, but I felt isolated. The police advised me not to go to class, not to post on social media, and not to contact anyone who might reveal my location to Trevor's friends. I was essentially in hiding. On my second day at the hotel, Officer Clark called with an update. We questioned Elliot Barnes, she said. He denied everything, but we got a warrant for his phone and computer. The tech team is going through them now. Do you think he's the one stalking me? I asked. It's too early to say for sure, but he's our prime suspect. He and Trevor are like brothers, Officer Clark replied. I thought about how Elliot had always been in Trevor's shadow. Whatever Trevor wanted, Elliot made happen. If Trevor told him to follow me, to threaten me, Elliot would do it without question. Later that day, I got a call from Ms. Flores. The defense has requested a bail hearing, she informed me. They're arguing that Trevor isn't a flight risk and should be released until trial. Panic surged in my chest. He can't get out. He tried to kill me and now someone's stalking me, threatening me. I know, she said soothingly. I'm going to fight this hard. The new stalking evidence helps us show that he's dangerous, even from prison. He's clearly orchestrating harassment against you. The bail hearing was set for the following week. Ms. Flores assured me I wouldn't need to attend, but I wanted to. I needed to see Trevor, to remind myself that he was real and not just the monster my nightmares had made him into. Uncle Mike insisted on coming with me. On the morning of the hearing, he picked me up from the hotel, and we drove to the courthouse together. I was nervous, my hands shaking as we went through security. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Trevor was already there, sitting next to his attorney. He looked different, thinner, paler. When he saw me walk in, his eyes widened for a split second, and I saw something like hope on his face. Then his expression quickly hardened into something cold and unreadable. I sat as far from him as possible, with Uncle Mike between us, acting as a shield. The hearing began with Trevor's attorney arguing that he had strong community ties, no prior criminal record, and wasn't a flight risk. He even suggested that I had misinterpreted Trevor's actions. Ms. Flores countered with the evidence, the video confession, the text messages, the mechanic's statement about the deliberately cut brake lines. She also brought up the recent stalking and blackmail attempts. While we haven't yet proven Mr. Johnson is directly responsible for this harassment, she argued, it began immediately after his apprehension and is clearly intended to intimidate the victim into dropping charges. This demonstrates that, even from prison, the defendant poses a danger to Miss Anderson. The judge, an older man with thick glasses, listened to both sides before making his decision. Bail is denied, he said firmly. The defendant will remain in custody until trial. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Trevor wouldn't be getting out. At least I was safe from him for now. As we left the courtroom, I made the mistake of looking back. Trevor was staring at me with such hatred that I physically recoiled. Uncle Mike put his arm around my shoulders and hurried me out of the courthouse. He can't hurt you, he reminded me as we walked to the car. He's staying locked up. But we both knew Trevor didn't need to be physically present to hurt me. He had friends on the outside who were more than willing to do his dirty work. That night, back at the hotel, I got a text from an unknown number. You think you're safe? Think again. Drop the charges or things get worse. I forwarded the text to Officer Clark and blocked the number. An hour later, another message came in from a different number. We know where you are. Room 412. Nice hotel. My blood ran cold. They knew exactly where I was staying down to the room number. I called Officer Clark immediately. Don't panic, she said, though I could hear the worry in her voice. I'm sending officers to the hotel right now. Pack your things. We're moving you. I hastily packed my belongings, my hands trembling. True to her word, 2 officers arrived within minutes. They escorted me to their car and drove me to a different hotel on the other side of town. How did they find me? I asked one of the officers as we drove. We're not sure yet, he admitted, but we're investigating everyone who had access to that information. The new hotel wasn't as nice as the first, but I didn't care. All I wanted was to be somewhere Trevor's friends couldn't find me. The next morning, Officer Clark called with news. We've apprehended Elliot Barnes, she said. The tech team found evidence on his computer linking him to the stalking and blackmail. He had the video of you, and his phone's GPS places him outside your apartment and Uncle Mike's house on the dates in question. Relief washed over me. So it's over? He can't bother me anymore. Elliot's in custody, but we're still investigating whether anyone else was involved. Trevor had other friends who might be willing to help him. She was right to be cautious. That afternoon, I got an email from another unknown address. This one contained photos of me entering the courthouse with Uncle Mike. The message was simple. We're still watching. I forwarded it to Officer Clark, feeling defeated. Would this ever end? How many of Trevor's friends were still out there, willing to terrorize me on his behalf? 2 days later, there was a breakthrough. Officer Clark called, her voice excited. We've got him. The emails were sent from Trevor's mother's IP address. We just executed a search warrant at her house and found evidence that she's been helping coordinate the harassment campaign. I was stunned. I had known Trevor's mom, Patricia, since I was a kid. She had always been kind to me, or so I thought. Trevor's mom? Really? I asked. She's being brought in for questioning now. And we found something else, a journal where Trevor detailed his plans to get rid of you if you didn't stop grieving your father. It goes back months. This wasn't a one-time impulse. He's been planning this. I felt sick. All those months when I thought Trevor was just being insensitive about my grief, he had actually been plotting to kill me if I didn't get over it fast enough. Officer Clark continued, we're adding the journal to the evidence for trial. It strengthens the case for premeditation. After hanging up, I sat on the hotel bed, trying to process everything. Trevor had planned to kill me, and his mother had helped harass me afterward. How had I never seen this side of them? Had they always been this way, or had something changed? The next few days were a whirlwind. Patricia Johnson was charged with stalking, harassment, and witness intimidation. Elliot was charged with similar offenses, plus voyeurism for the window video. Trevor remained in prison, now with even more evidence against him. Ms. Flores called to update me on the case. With the new evidence, especially Trevor's journal, his attorney has approached us about a plea deal, she said. This time, he's willing to plead guilty to all charges, including attempted murder. The only negotiation is on sentencing. What are they offering? I asked. 15 years with the possibility of parole after 10, she replied. Given the premeditation evidence, it's a reasonable offer. If we go to trial, he could get more, but trials are always unpredictable. I thought about it. 15 years. Trevor would be in his late 30s when he got out. I'd have a whole new life by then, career, maybe even a family. The idea of accepting the plea deal and putting this all behind me was tempting. I'll take it, I decided, as long as his mom and Elliot also plead guilty. I'll make that a condition of the deal. Ms. Flores agreed. 2 weeks later, it was done. Trevor, Patricia, and Elliot all pleaded guilty to their respective charges. Trevor got 15 years, Patricia got 3 years for her role in the harassment, and Elliot got 5 years for the stalking, blackmail, and voyeurism. I watched Trevor's plea hearing via video link from Ms. Flores' office. I didn't want to be in the same room as him, but I needed to see him admit what he'd done. When the judge asked if he wanted to make a statement, Trevor looked directly at the camera. I'm sorry, he said flatly. I never meant to hurt Melissa. I just wanted her to move on and be happy with me. It wasn't a real apology. He was still making it about him, still acting like his intentions somehow excused his actions. But I didn't need his remorse. I just needed him gone from my life. After the hearing, Ms. Flores turned off the video link and looked at me. It's over, she said simply. They can't hurt you anymore. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions, relief, certainly, but also sadness for the relationship I thought I had, for the Trevor I thought I knew, and fear, would I ever be able to trust anyone again? As if reading my mind, Ms. Flores added, the restraining orders are permanent. When they eventually get out, they legally can't come near you or contact you. Thank you, I said, for everything. That evening, I moved back into my apartment. Uncle Mike had hired a security company to install a better system, cameras, motion sensors, the works. It made me feel safer knowing I could see if anyone approached my door. I sat on my couch, looking around at my space. It was mine again, no Trevor, no fear, just me and my memories of my dad, which I could now honor without anyone trying to erase them. I picked up a photo of my dad that had been face down for so long. In it, he was sitting on his motorcycle, grinning at the